السلام عليكم معايا.
Wabarakatuh.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I hear you.
Did
Alhamdulillah.
you sorted out your laptop problem?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
No,
Bit rushing around
me
today.
and my family just spent a little half hour watching you and Paul.
What did you think?
Alhamdulillah, nice. We read some of the comments. Comments were nice.
There's a bit of an echo though this time. I can hear my voice coming back.
Let me see something. What about now?
Let's see. Can I hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Can I hear my voice? No, that's better.
Yeah.
That is better.
I think because it was coming from a secondary monitor.
He saw like a short video I made last week, and then he reached out and said, I'd like to chat to you on the channel about it. So I was like, yeah, sounds like a good idea. It's a good platform to send out, a nice message. So I thought I'd take him up on it. So inshallah khair.
No. For anyone tuned in, inshallah, we will begin in just a few minutes. We'll wait until 9 p.m. Mecca time before we begin, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
No, it was good. Good to chat to Paul.
Inshallah. Wonderful.
I'm not sure I exactly the same level as many of his other guests, like professors and doctors and stuff like that. Just like a regular dude.
Maybe better.
Huh?
Maybe better. I mean, your qualifications may not be their qualifications, but
Allah knows best. Inshallah khair.
No.
So what have we got today? I need to look at the file you sent me.
Naming. About names.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the Arabic, okay.
Inshallah, we'll begin bi'idhnillah. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أما بعد. And we are back reading Fatawa for the Muslim child, a collection of more than 150 Fatawa from the likes of Sheikh Ibn Baz, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, Sheikh Ibn Jibreen, and Al-Lajnatul Da'ima, or the Permanent Committee. This collection was done some years ago from their different books of Fatawa. Also, Sheikh Saleh Al-Fawzan, Hafidhullah, may Allah have preserved him. Inshallah, we are finished. Last week, we read the chapter related to belief and what might be related to the belief in having children and some practices that might be involved with having children or trying to have children or trying to protect the children from sicknesses and diseases and so on. And after finishing the section on belief, we begin tonight with the chapter on naming the children. naming the children. And as always, we have our brother Abu Yusuf Abdul-Rahim Roberts with us to help us and assist us in the show. Ahlan wa sahlan, Abu Yusuf.
أهلا بك يا أبو معاوية بارك الله فيك.
Fikum barak. And down below on the rolling ticker, inshallah, you can find where you can follow Abdul-Rahim Roberts on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the likes.
Thank you, brother.
There, inshallah. Inshallah, let's get right into this here. We'll jump into the Fatawa. Some of the topics that we're going to cover today, inshallah, are going to be the time of naming the newborn. When should the newborn child be named, as well as whose right is it to name the newborn, the father's or the mother's or whose? Also, changing certain names for certain reasons. Also, naming someone with the names of Allah. Naming someone with the names of Allah without the addition of Abd, such as, can I name my son Kareem without saying Abdul Kareem, Rahman without saying Abdul Rahman, and so on and so forth. And inshallah, a few more topics with Allah's permission. So the first question that we have here, Abu Yusuf.
Bismillah. Which is the best day to name a newborn child? Straight after it is born, or on the 7th day? And is it permissible to celebrate this occasion with beloved ones, friends, and neighbors?
No. So this question was answered by the permanent committee. They said, as for the time for naming a newborn child, then there is plenty of leeway, plenty of room here. If it is named on the day of its birth or on the 7th day, then there are narrations that indicate both of these. For Al-Bukhari and Muslim have narrated in their Sahihs upon the authority of Sahal ibn Sa'ad as-Sa'adi radiyallahu anhu that he said, Al-Mundhiri ibn Usayd was brought to Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was born. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam placed him on his thigh whilst Abu Ubaid was seated nearby. The Prophet ﷺ then became busy with something, so Abu Usaid ordered that his child be lifted off the thigh of the Prophet ﷺ, and then the Prophet ﷺ asked, where is the child? Abu Usaid said, we have returned him, O Messenger of Allah. He said, what is his name? He said, so-and-so. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, rather his name is Al-Mundhiri. Also in the Sahih of Muslim, from the hadith of Sulaiman ibn Mughira, from Thabit on the authority of Anas radiallahu anhu, that he said, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, birth was given this night to a son of mine, and I have named him by the name of my father, Ibrahim. Also the hadith that Ahmed and the compilers of the books of the Sunan have narrated on the authority of Samra, that he said, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, every child is a pledge subject to its aqiqah. An animal is sacrificed upon its behalf on its 7th day. It is therefore named and its head is shaved. Tirmidhi said this hadith is Hasan Sahih, and the success is with Allah, and may He bless and send peace upon our Prophet, his family, and his companions.
SubhanAllah.
No.
Now, there's some interesting topics today. This is, I think, some of the things you mentioned will be useful for people in not just this, but in other, in other areas as well.
No.
Like for example, the one about Abd and which of the names and things like that. Yeah, looking forward to hearing that one.
No, inshallah. So here I would say we see the one narration where the Prophet ﷺ named his son Ibrahim on the 1st day, and at another time he mentioned that the child is the subject to its aqiqah, meaning when you slaughter for it, right, on the 7th day, and it is therefore named and its head is shaved. So we can see from here that the child should be named by the 7th day. If you name it before that or on the 1st day, then there's no harm in that, and Allah knows best. Another thing I'd say, as I said before last week, when it was dealing with some aqidah points and the sheikhs were saying, and not only is it shirk, but it is obligatory upon the one who is aware of this to inform the imam that this is shirk. Here, as I said, when it's an issue of belief, an issue of aqidah, then of Islamic creed, then it must be dealt with immediately and with some sternness. Whereas when it's not aqidah and it's not this, then there is some room, as he said in the very beginning. As for the time of naming a newborn child, then there is some leeway here. There's some room for when it could be done. Also, they are not answering their questions. The ulama are not answering the questions based upon a particular madhab or a particular idea that came from them. Rather, they are bringing the evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah for what they have to say. So they brought authentic hadith here to support both positions and gave the people the leeway to make their decision. The next question.
It's just coming up. It's a little bit of a delay. There we go. Allah the Most Glorious and Most High bestowed upon me a daughter, and I wanted to name her by a particular name, but my wife wanted another name. So I suggested that we draw lots between the two names. So we name her according to the results of the lots. Is this a type of drawing fate with arrows? If it is, then how should we have resolved this difference? And is naming the child right of the father? And is naming the child the right of the father only? Please enlighten us. May Allah reward you with good.
No. Okay. This answer is by Shaykh Ibn Baz, rahimahullah. He said, drawing lots in such a situation is of the legislated matters, for it consists of the resolving of differences and the appeasing of spirits. The Prophet ﷺ used it, meaning drawing lots, in many matters. If he ﷺ wanted to travel, he would draw lots between his wives. Whichever one of them the arrows would turn out in her favor, he would depart with her. Also, when a man who had no other wealth bequeathed that his 6 slaves should be freed, the Prophet ﷺ drew lots between them, and he freed 2 and left 4 as slaves. The naming of the child is the right of the father, but it is preferred that the mother be consulted to appease her spirit and conciliate the hearts. It is legislated for them both to choose good names and avoid hated ones. It is not permissible in naming the accompany Abd with other than the names of Allah. So you cannot be Abd other than one of Allah's names, such as in the following forbidden names: Abdul Nabi, Abdul Kaaba, Abdul Hussein, or other such names. This is because everyone is an Abd of Allah, the Most Gracious. Hence, it is not permissible to accompany Abd with other than him. The famous scholar Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm has related an ijma' of the scholars regarding the prohibition of this, except for the name of Abdul Muttalib, because the Prophet ﷺ allowed it for some of his companions. May Allah be pleased with them all, and the success is with Allah.
SubhanAllah. Yeah, I've come across one of the names I came across was Abdul-Turab, which I found I was like, what? I couldn't. I'd never heard that one until I came across it.
No.
But, and Abdul Nabi, I've heard. Abdul Nabi, Abdul Rasul, I've heard those as well. But subhanAllah.
Abdul Turab, I don't know, maybe somebody got it wrong from Abu Turab, because Ali's kunya was Abu Turab. The Prophet Ali radiallahu anhu had got into a disagreement, and he went and sat outside the masjid or the Prophet's house, and he fell asleep, and the wind blew, living in the desert, the wind blew on top of him. So when the Prophet ﷺ came out, he saw him sleeping there full of dust on top of him, and he wake up Abu Turab. And from them, Ali radiallahu anhu said that was his most favorite nickname. So maybe somebody messed up from there.
Maybe. Yeah, subhanAllah.
As for Abdul Nabi and Abdul Rasul, you hear this a lot from Egyptians, right? One of the muezzins in Hadiyah, his name was given to him as Abdul Nabi. His parents named him Abdul Nabi, and he changed his name to Abdul Rabb Nabi. Abdul Rabb Nabi, the slave of the Lord of the Prophet, which is, he tried to change it to appease them in a way, not changing it to just say Mustafa or something way far different. So,
well, one of the things I regret, which is really related to this, but when I changed my name, and I think I heard Abdurrahim McCarthy mention this too. I wish I'd kept my, what I would have done, thinking about it now, if I had a bit more wisdom, and alhamdulillah for whatever happened, I would have called myself Abdurrahim Lee Roberts, so that I would have just there's nothing wrong with Lee. Lee doesn't mean anything. It's not like a derogatory or bad or anything, but I probably would have just kept the name and just put Abdurrahim in front. So, because I think on reflection, taking out my original name was quite an upsetting thing for my parents. And that wasn't my intention, but alhamdulillah for what happens, but it is what it is.
No, I remember there was a brother who graduated from Medina, and he was known as he had a Muslim name. He had a Muslim name, and it wasn't. He's got a non-Arabic name, and that non-Arabic name has an Arabic equivalent. Like, for instance, we have Jesus and Isa, like this, right? Or Noah and Nuh. He has a name, and he changed it to not the equivalent. And he has actually a master's degree from Medina, and now he goes by his original name again.
Oh, really?
And I really felt bothered. I really felt bothered by that. For a long time, I was, of the position almost that it was obligatory for you to change your name. I knew it wasn't, but it was very, extremely recommended. And then he said he had some of the mashayikh in Medina advise him to keep his original name because there was nothing wrong with it. And not all of the Sahaba changed their names, and some of them. And if you look back, then you find most of the Salaf or the Sahaba, those who accepted Islam, and even the Salaf after them from the Tabi'een, they kept their original name as long as it did not have a bad meaning.
Right.
If you listen to the lineage of Al-Bukhari, Muhammad ibn Ismail, ibn Ibrahim, ibn al-Mughira, ibn Bardizbah. And Bardizbah, I believe, is the one who accepted Islam, but he kept Bardizbah. Now, the problem becomes when Muslims name their children with other than Arabic names. Then that becomes the problem. I know one brother, he named his kid with a strong Jewish name because his wife liked it, and he was married to a Christian woman, so it was a biblical name for her. And I know some brothers from other countries, for instance, my wife is Bosnian. You can see the generation where the war took place, they named their kids other than Islamic names. So my wife's parents, both of them have an Arabic name, even if the name is just like one of those picked out of the Quran where they open up, put their finger on it, and that's my name. Yeah. But then they named their children with Turkish names, Farsi names, non-Arabic names, and you can kind of see. And this is where the issue comes. If I had the chance to go back, I'm like you, I probably would have kept my name. Even I haven't changed it legally. I probably would have kept my name as it was, trying to follow the salaf. But Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah was asked about it, and we'll get there inshallah. If not in this book, then in Fatawa Islamiyah, where he was asked about changing the name, and he recommended that a person change the name. And while today I wouldn't do it, back then it helped me in my mind to develop an Islamic personality.
Exactly why I did it. That's exactly why I did it, because I was changing jobs. I was moving out of the UK, and I wanted to move with an Islamic identity, because it had been kind of, I mean, I've always been called Lee by my parents and everybody, and I don't have any problem with that name. But I wanted to have an Islamic name so that when I went and met people in the Middle East, they'd know me as Abdul-Rahim.
No.
A lot of people know me either as Abdul-Rahim or Abu Yusuf now, but obviously mum and dad will always call me, by my birth name. But reflecting on it, I would have advised myself, just add Abdul-Rahim, so you keep Lee as a middle name, and then Roberts obviously stays as a family name. That's what I would probably have done. But
that's another big thing you do is you find people changing their last name, and
that's the problem.
It's a problem, and Allah knows best. Even though there are some of the Salaf who became known as, for instance, Mawla Ibn Omar, and they don't really have a last name anymore, like kind of like their last name was lost and they became Mawla somebody, or it was changed because they changed tribes or they were enslaved and then developed and names changed, things like this. But it becomes a problem. For instance, I know two brothers who are American. They both accepted Islam and they both have different names. They both have different last names. They changed their last name.
Sorry, go on, sorry.
No, they changed their name and their last name. And so, like, their kids could meet each other sometime down the line and not even know that they're related.
Right, exactly. And this is, I was going to say was, I don't know about in the US culture, but in British culture, typically the woman, once she marries a man, will take the man's family name. Whereas in Islam, obviously, it's forbidden for us to change our family name for the purposes of tariq, lineage and everything. So, that's always fascinated me. There's one of the interesting things about the Islamic culture and Arabian culture is the stress on the qaba'il, the families, the tribes, and everything. It's preserved in this way, as you said, So I think one of the ways of preserving the rights of the women is to, they keep the names of their family in their names. They're not forced to change them when they marry someone.
No. I don't know if you're freezing, Abdul-Rahim. I don't know if you can hear me, but
yeah, I don't know if it's me or you or both of us.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Inshallah. Let's go to the next question.
Is it permissible for beloved ones, neighbors, and friends to gather at the naming of a newly born, or is this party an innovation and disbelief?
I don't know. The permanent committee, they say, celebrating the event of the naming of a newborn child is not from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, nor did the companions practice this during his lifetime. So whoever practices this as if it were a sunnah has innovated in the religion something that is not from it. It would be rejected from him due to the saying of the Prophet ﷺ, whoever innovates in our religion something that is not from it will have it rejected. However, it is not disbelief. There is no harm in doing this out of happiness and joy, or to partake in the food of the aqiqah, and not as an implementation of the sunnah. It has been affirmed from him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that indicating the permissibility of sacrificing the aqiqah on the seventh day, and therefore naming the newborn.
Actually, the aqiqah was something that when my first was born, we didn't know about it. We just didn't have the knowledge. So yeah, one of the interesting questions, I guess, to answer would be for the people, in watching this maybe, is I don't know if it's there in the questions, but if somebody subsequently realizes that they didn't, or they should have done an aqiqah within 7 days for their child or so, are they then subsequently retrospectively allowed to do it? I've heard some opinions on it, but I don't want to mention them here out of fear of, being wrong and misguiding people. So,
well, let's see if it comes up in the next few weeks, and if it doesn't, then we'll ask somebody, inshallah ta'ala.
Yeah,
that's safest. No. Next question.
We often hear from the layman or the learned the making of names consisting of abd smaller or changing the around into names that differ from the original. Is there any harm in this? For example, Abdullah is transformed into Ubaydullah or Abudullah or Al-Abdi. Abdurrahman is transformed into Dahim or Dahim. Abdulaziz is transformed to Aziz or Azuz or similar to that. As for Muhammad, it is transformed into Muhammad or Hamdan or Al-Hamdi or similar to that. I hear a lot of people, by the way, saying Ya Hamudi and things like this, you know.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So that's what looking forward to the answer of this one. Looking forward to it.
No. Sheikh Ibn Baz, rahimahullah, he says there's no harm in making the names consisting of Abd or others smaller, meaning tasghir. And I don't know of any scholar who has stated that this is forbidden. Similar names are numerous amongst the narrators of the hadith, such as Unais, which and Humayd and Ubayd, and similar to that. If this is done to somebody who hates it, then its prohibition is more apparent. This is because it then becomes a form of name calling, which is forbidden by Allah in His book, except for a person who is only known by this name, for then there is no harm, as the scholars of hadith have stated concerning narrators such as Al-A'mash, which means he has weak vision, or Al-A'raj, which means the crippled one, or other similarly named narrators. And that's it. So, Unais, which is short for Anas, Humayd, which is the short for Hamid, Ubayd, which is the short for Abd, right? We have Ubaydullah, Abdullah. All of these can be names, as well as you have people call, like it says in the question, they might call Abdullah Ubaydullah or Abdi or Abudi, right? They might call Uthman Mooni, right? As we see here, Abdurrahman is Dahim or Dahim. Aziz could be Aziz or Azuz. Similar, no problem. It's like cute little nicknames.
I came across a friend of mine who I used to work with. We were in a restaurant together, and the manager of the restaurant came over and spoke to us, and he started using like a strange term to refer to my friend is Abdul Karim, okay, and he started calling him Qurayyim instead of something like this, Qurayyim, and he didn't like it. Like you could see, he didn't say anything, but he didn't like it. So after we finished, I said, you know, what happened to you? I saw your face. You obviously didn't like what he was calling you. And he said, no, it's because this is something from where he's from. And, you know, I have some, you know, personal issue with that. So, yeah, I can go into it in more detail after this, but I don't want to talk too much. But it was just the interesting thing was, you know, I'd never heard that before. Kareem is usually, you know, it's usually Kareem, or the Egyptians would maybe say Kareem or something like that. They like to, the Egyptians have their own little way of, you know, changing. They seem to put like MO on the end of everything, Rahimo or Karimo or something like this, you know.
No.
But that one, Qurayyim, I'd never heard that one before. So that was interesting for me.
It's just the ism tasghir of Kareem. It means like little Kareem, you know.
Like Fatum and Ayush and things like this, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, just nicknames. Alhamdulillah, it's cute as long as they like it. You know, the little kid's Abudi until he becomes a man, 13, 14. Then he don't want to be Abudi anymore. He wants to be Abdullah, you know. As the Sheikh said, as long as he doesn't have a dislike for it, then because if he dislikes it, because he grew up and he's no longer that little kid, you know, he doesn't want that cute nickname. Now you have to call him by his name. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, Khaloud is another one you hear around here a lot.
No.
Khaloudi.
No,
I like it. It's nice. It's like we don't really have this in English. I can't think of we'd have to change the actual word itself, isn't it? It's something which is actually, as you know better than me, part of Arabic grammar. Like I think in one of the Medina books, for example, it actually teaches you fu'ail is the wazn of tasghir of al-asma. So, or some of.
Well, you have in English, in America anyway, the real English, we say
we need to talk after this, man.
We have nicknames. For instance, there's for Kathleen or Kathleen, there could be Kathy. For
Yeah,
Richard, we might say Rich or Richie. For Michael, we might say Mike, or Mikey, or we might
Rebecca
say
is like Becky.
Yeah, Becky, or we might say Dick for Richard. Dick is a name, a nick, like a shortening. So we have it in English as well. For instance, when I was little, they used to call me Stevie. But when you get 10, 11, 12 years old, you don't want to be Stevie anymore. You just be Steve or Steven, or you know what I mean?
Some people I spoke to, even in English, this is why if I meet someone for the first time, even if it's like because everyone meets on Teams, MS Teams these days in businesses, you'll see the person's name. And I remember hearing something from a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a fascinating book where he talks about the name being the most beloved thing to a person.
No.
Obviously there's conditions to that. I'm just talking in general here. So like if someone calls you by your name, like if someone calls me Abu Yusuf, I love to hear that. I'm sure the same with you. If someone calls you Abu Muawiyah, you like to hear that.
No.
So, but if someone gets your name wrong, like for example, my name is Abdul-Haarith Roberts. Quite often people will see Roberts because they'll put surname, first name, like with a comma in the middle, and they'll call me Robert. And especially for English people, the only person who will ever call you by your family name in the UK is your teacher at school when he's telling you off, or your drill sergeant in the army. There's only those two people that are going to say it, and nobody else can say it. Otherwise, it's like, and it's almost like an insult. So the names are supremely important. It's what people attach to their own personality, their culture, and I don't think many people realize just how important it is. That instead of if you remember someone's name, you've only met them once, and you come back and you meet them again after say a year or 2 years, and you call them by their name again. It shows that you're important to that person. And, anyway, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
No, but I'm just sitting there thinking and listening, but I'm just thinking how similar, though, we have Richard becomes Richie, Michael becomes Mike or Mikey, Steven can become Steve or Stevie. And really, Richie, Mikey, Stevie are little ones. They're really like tasghir.
Yeah, you're right. You're thinking about it with the Y on the end. It's probably
maybe Stevie Wonder has his name, or IE. I think IE or EY, IE or EY. It depends on the name. But we have something very similar in English, that we have the tasghir of name. Bill, William can become Bill or Billy. My uncle's name is William, and everyone calls him Billy. Not his wife calls him Bill, I guess, probably because that's how he introduced himself, and that's how. But everybody's Uncle Billy, And he doesn't have.
I retract my statement. I take it back. I was wrong.
Yeah. No, I probably would have made the same statement, but it caused us to think about it. So alhamdulillah.
No, it's right. It's true. It is.
But maybe in Britain they don't do that, so I don't know.
No, we do exactly the same. Exactly the same. Yeah.
Next question.
Okay, and just before we go on to this one, then there's the whole thing about nicknames, which is another thing in the UK. I'm sure you have it in the US as well.
No, we definitely have nicknames.
Different matter. Anyway, so next one. At birth, the father contacts a sheikh to look into the star sign of the newborn. I don't like the way this is going. If the child's name suits him, the sheikh remains silent. If it doesn't, he orders its changing. So it is common to find among us people with two names. It is affirmed from the Prophet that he ordered certain vile names to be changed. However, if it is not vile, is it permissible to change it?
No. This answered by the permit committee. They say, firstly, it is not permissible to read the stars, for it is a type of fortune telling. Furthermore, it is not permissible to change names because of their incompatibility with the stars, for this entails believing the fortune teller and acting upon the outcome of fortune telling. Secondly, it is permissible to change a vile name in accordance with the practice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, there is no harm in changing it, even if it is not vile, if this is not done because of the incompatibility with the stars or such superstitions, and also if this change does not lead to the deprivation of someone's rights. May Allah send blessings and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad, his family, and his companions.
Yeah.
So, because of looking at the stars and zodiac signs and all of that, alhamdulillah, I haven't heard of anyone ever doing anything like this, but so hopefully it's rooted out from the ummah for the most part.
There's a lot of sheikh of people that talk about star signs. I mean, it scares me because the second you hear about the hadith of your prayer not being accepted, even if you ask, or I mean I've been reading newspapers or something like that, and I've come across the horoscopes, and I've gone, oh, astaghfirullah, I hope I didn't look at, just out of fear that I looked at it, and thinking to myself, I hope I didn't look at it. I hope Allah won't, not accept my prayers for 40 days, and then when you hear people talking about it like this, or look, this is my understanding, not my understanding, I'm just telling a story. I'm not saying, this is just from Abdul-Haarith, nobody, go to a proper scholar to understand this one, but it scares you when you see a hadith that talks about your prayer not being accepted for 40 days. You still have to pray while your prayers are not accepted. SubhanAllah, man. SubhanAllah, so dangerous.
No. Abdul-Rahim is referring, for those who may not know, Abdul-Rahim is referring to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, whoever visits or listens to a fortune teller just to hear what they have to say, then his prayer is not accepted for 40 days. And whoever listens and believes in what he says, then he is disbelieved in what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with or sent with. And so believing in it, as he said above, and acting upon it, then this is kufr that could take one out of Islam. Whereas just listening. And another thing is dangerous is like you said, fortune cookies from a Chinese restaurant, also watching certain TV shows. For instance, I remember, old TV shows. I don't watch them anymore. I don't know who they, what they have out there today, but like there was, Phil Donahue and Oprah Winfrey and all these people. They would have on there, they would have fortune tellers on there and psychics and stuff that would try to stand up and read people in the audiences, tell them about themselves. If you even watch that show, it's you just listening, entertaining it. And worse than that, or more dangerous or more hidden, I would say, is watching a movie where they do this, or watching a TV show where they do this as part of the skit or the script of the show. What do we say about that? It's just part of the show. Like it's part of the movie. It's part of the show that they might be going to a fortune teller or reading the fortune, and here you are like listening and engaging in it because it's part of the show.
Right. Yeah, even in there's another, I don't know if it's a hadith or I think it's an athar, narration of one of the sahabas of there was the story of the magician where he cut the guy's head off and then put it back on his head again, and the guy was fine, and then one of the sahabas just killed him direct because of the fact that the Prophet Muhammad said to the magician should be killed. So he kind of like carried out the hukum, then and there, because of the severity of it. So sometimes I'm watching something, and I'll come across a video of David Blaine or one of these other people, and I don't want to watch it. I just flick quickly because I don't know the ruling on it, but I don't. In this one, it's like al-halal bayyin wal-haram bayyin, and for me, I'm in the mushtabihat, so I just
for sure. And then you just worry, okay, even though he's not telling me a future or anything, but what if I just listen to him because he does something with a card deck, and what if because of that my prayer is not accepted for 40 days, man? Or what if some love of what he does enters my heart and weakens my iman or something, subhanAllah, But even if we look at the second,
go ahead, Sheikh.
No, I said if we look at the second section, and it says no harm in changing the name, even if it's not vile, as long as it's not being done because of the stars or something like that, then and as long as it doesn't take someone's rights. And I think this is what's related to changing the last names, the rights of the person. And this is just my personal assumption from that, as long as it does not lead to the deprivation of someone's rights. So you change the name, and because of that, in America, I don't know the process. You said you changed your name legally, right? To Abdul-Rahim Roberts. Well, in America, to change your name, you have to publish that you're doing your name change in the newspaper for like 2 months or something like this. This gives any creditors or debtors or anybody like this a chance to say, okay, so now I can chase after him in his new name.
We have a process in the UK called a deed poll. You basically go to a public office. They print out a form. They say, what's your old name? What do you want your new name to be? You give them some proof of who you are. You sign the form. They stamp it, and then they register it with the with a civil office, so that it's on record that you've actually changed your name. And then you're legally obliged to use your new name in everything, banks, passports, driving license, everything you do, you're then obliged to do. If you don't, you're breaking the law and you can go to jail and all that sort of thing. But it's easy to do, but it's not like a light thing. It's, because I remember when I did it, I had a lot of work to do to change my name on everything.
No. Same thing in America. Same thing takes place, but you have to actually, before it actually like becomes official, you have to publish it in a newspaper for a certain amount of days and prove that to the judge and so on and so forth, so that, like I said, any creditors or debtors or anybody that knew you as your old name that might need or have some right against you, they can come take it.
No, I have to say, one of the things that fascinates me as I get a bit older is history and things like that. And it's fascinating, the history of the US and how all the different states formed and when the people came in and, how did the different laws start in the different states and how is the general government controlling all of the states? Because it's totally different in the UK, obviously, because it's a much smaller country. It developed in a different way. But it's, this is one of the things I find fascinating. It's
Does it cost money to change your name in the UK?
No, not to actually get the deed poll, but to get my new driving license, change the name. There's obviously associated costs with that. Get a new passport.
Our fee we have court fees plus whatever the newspaper cost that you have to pay. Take out that little. That you have to pay for that new thing to be put in the newspaper. You have to pay for the court fees. It could cost anywhere from a couple $100 to a couple thousand, depending on.
Is that just in your state, or is that
that's
all over
everywhere.
the US?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Interesting.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Let's see what else they got to say.
This is an interesting one. What's interesting to me? What is the ruling of naming with names of Allah, such as Kareem, Aziz, and other such names?
This is answered by Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. He says the naming with the names of Allah, the most honorable and majestic, is of two kinds. The first kind, it breaks into two further categories. The first category, names accompanied by al, which means in English, the. In this case, no one is to be named by them except Allah, the honorable and majestic. Such as if someone were to be named Al-Aziz, As-Sayyid, Al-Hakim, and other similar names. No one is to be named by these names in this fashion except Allah, because this al, this the, or the, indicates and suggests Allah himself, as this is the meaning that these names incorporate. The second category in this first kind, if the attribute is intended by the name, however, it is unaccompanied by al or the, it is still not to be named by. the Prophet ﷺ changed the pseudo name of Abu al-Hakam, the judge, by which he was named for his companions used to settle their matters by his judgment. The Prophet ﷺ said, verily Allah is al-Hakam, and unto him is the judgment. He then changed his pseudo name, which is his kunya. Here it's being translated as pseudo name, his kunya, to that of his eldest child, Shurayh. This indicates that if someone were to be named with a name from the names of Allah with the intention of incorporating the attribute that this name encompasses, this would be forbidden. This is because this name would then be exactly similar to that particular name of Allah, the Most Gracious and Most High. For the names of Allah, the Most High, are names as well as attributes, for they incorporate meanings. The second kind is to name by a name that is unaccompanied by al and or the, and the incorporation of its attribute is not intended. There is no harm in this, such as Hakim, wise one. Not the wise one, but wise one. And from amongst the names of the companions is Hakim ibn Hazam, to whom the Prophet ﷺ said, do not sell something that is not in your possession. So this is an evidence indicating that if the attribute is not intended by the name, then there is no harm in it. However, it is not befitting to name with such names as Jabbar, the mighty one, even if its attribute is not intended. This is because it could affect the one named by it, and thus he could become tyrannical, condescending, and arrogant towards others. It is befitting that the individual should avoid such matters that could possibly affect him, and Allah knows best.
Yeah,
so,
if I remember rightly, also like to call someone Rahman, it should always be Abdul-Rahman, not Rahman.
That is the other name. Rahman cannot be except for Allah. Abdul-Rahman cannot be, or Ar-Rahman is for Allah. But someone being Rahman without the Alif Lam is not permissible. Correct. This is different. The Sheikh didn't mention it here, but this is brought from the Fatawa of the Mashayikh. Basically, he said the first kind is that it has the name Al, whether it be a name or a kunya. That's the two categories in the first one. The first one, it has Al, the, whether it be in the name or in the kunya. So even if it's not your child's name, it's kind of just like your nickname. So like we say here, that he was Abu Hakam. He was the one who used to make judgments. His son wasn't Hakam, but he was the one who made judgments, so they called him Abu Hakam. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, Allah is Al-Hakam. So therefore, you're now Abu Shurayh, right? The father of his oldest child. And as for having the names Al-Hakim, Al-Aziz, Al-Karim, then this is not permissible. But the second kind, that which doesn't have Al, doesn't have the, then if you have that without trying to, without it being Rahman, of course, or Allah, right? Then you can have that, inshallah ta'ala, with as long as it's not meant. And Allah knows. And avoid certain names. And this is something that names have an effect on the person. The names have an effect on the person. So someone could have the name, as we see, if it comes up, I'm not sure. But some people had the name Harb. One of the people had, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, had the name Harb. The Prophet ﷺ said, change your name to Sahal. He said, no, I'm not going to change my name. I'm going to keep it. This is what my family gave me, so I'm going to keep it. And he said, after that, Sa'id ibn Musayyib said, ever since then, my family's been known as being rough. He had this name, Harb, or war. And there's lots of benefits even in that. The Prophet ﷺ told him to change it, but it wasn't a command from Allah. He was just, showing a recommendation. The Prophet ﷺ allowed him to keep his name, even though, he didn't have to listen to him. We know some of the Sahaba listened to every single thing. And we know some of them, they said, this is a matter of the dunya. This ain't a matter of ibadah necessarily. So I don't have to listen to that, But because of that, he had a harsh personality, and his family was known as having this roughness.
Yeah, I mean, imagine when you see the way some of the Sahabas were with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like literally, whatever he said to them, they would be fighting with each other to
No,
do it. And for a guy
no.
to
Then
to
say
come to him
no.
and say, "I ain't changing my name." He must have had some. There must have been some roughness in there in the first place for him to literally turn down
No.
the apostle
And
of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
and the Prophet ﷺ tried to make it easy by making his name Sahel, by making him
Yeah.
easy and take away the roughness, but he didn't want it. Alhamdulillah. But look at the way the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were with him. They were sometimes, they played tricks on him, tell him his breath smells bad, tell him it must be from the honey of so and so. So, they used to do things. They were humans, alhamdulillah. And this is the beauty of it, because the Prophet ﷺ is great. He's this definitely the best creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. At the same time, he was a human being, so he was able to be an example for us.
Yeah.
He wasn't Allah made him our example, right? He didn't make him an angel so that we wouldn't know how to follow him. No, he made him a human being, and that human being had human interactions with other humans. MashaAllah. It was nice.
One of the stories that comes to mind when you say that is the time when either he was asked sallallahu alaihi wasallam or he advised the people about the date palms, and as a result of his advice, I think the harvest for the date palms was not as good as it could have been, and this is because this was from the affairs of the dunya. It's not from the affairs of the deen. So he sallallahu alaihi wasallam was advising him on what he thought, and it goes to show that he was a man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not a some sort of omnipotent being.
Allah says at the end of Surah Al-Kahf, Allah says what means I am a messenger, or I say I am a man like you, except it has been revealed to me. Innama ana basharun mithlukum. I'm a man like you, except it has been revealed to me that there's nothing worthy of worship except Allah. He's a man like us, except he has revelation. We don't have revelation.
Subhanallah.
And here's our last question for the night, inshallah ta'ala.
Allah. Why is it that to name one Abdul-Haarith is shirk, despite the fact that Allah is Al-Harith?
Now, this question was asked to Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. He said, the naming of one by Abdul-Haarith consists of attributing worship to other than Allah, the most honorable and majestic. For Al-Harith, the cultivator, is mankind. As the Prophet ﷺ said, every one of you is a Harith, and every one of you is Hammam. Meaning every one of you is a cultivator, and every one of you has an intention. Hammam meaning one who has an intention or a goal or something like that. So if a person joins abd to something that is created, then it is a type of shirk, but it doesn't reach the level of major shirk. This is why if a man were to be named by this name, it would be obligatory for him to change it and join it to one of the names of Allah, abd meaning the most glorious and most high, or be named by another name. It has been affirmed from the Prophet ﷺ that he said the most beloved names to Allah are Abdullah and Abdul-Rahman. The saying of the masses that is spread, and the best names are those that are joined to abd or hamd, then its attribution to the Messenger ﷺ is not authentic. It has not been narrated from the Prophet ﷺ with this wording. Rather, that which has been narrated is the most beloved names to Allah are Abdullah and Abdul-Rahman. As for the words of the questioner in his question, despite the fact that Allah is Al-Harith, then I do not know of a name of Allah the Most High in this form. He, the most honorable and majestic, is described as being Az-Zari', the grower. He's described, not his name, but he is described as Az-Zari'. but he is not named by it, as in his saying, أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تَحْرُثُونَ, do you not see that which you grow? أَأَنْتُمْ تَزْرَعُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الزَّارِعُونَ, is it you that make it grow, or are we the growers? From Surah Al-Waqi'ah 63 and 64. And that's the end of his statement. So Allah, he says that he is the Zari' as a sifa, as an attribute, but not as a name, right? Not as a name. In fact, he says Nahnu Zari'un in the plural, and we know Allah is one. So the question itself was a wrong question, despite the fact that Allah is Harith or Al-Harith, then this is not correct.
Yeah, it's like, I guess it would be like saying Abdul the Wajh or something, you know. It's not, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said he has a face, you know, so hands, or, you know, with the, regarding his face, or, you know, but you wouldn't say that I am the slave of the, or the abd of the one who has hands, or I guess it's the same sort of thing, except where Allah
and similar said, he's the one who splits the seeds, you know. He's the one who makes the plants grow. He's the one who causes the sun to rise. I'm the Abdul, the one who makes the sun rise from the west, east, or whatever. You understand? Like this, it doesn't make sense. So a sifa in the name,
in the names where Allah said He is, I am the this and the that, like Al-Hayy Al-Qayyim. You know, like this is these are things where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually told us a name.
No. And it's important for us to read in English. You know, there's the book by the exemplary names and beautiful names and attributes of Allah by Sheikh Uthaymeen. He has an excellent book on the names of Allah to talk about what's a name and what are the rules related to the names of Allah and His attributes. Also, there's another good book by Muhammad Khalifa at-Tamimi about the names and attributes of Allah. That's another good book. It's translated in English. And there's another one by Omar Suleiman al-Ashqar, which I actually found to be the best. I even like it better than Uthaymeen's book. That's my personal preference, about the names and attributes of Allah. And all these books are translated into English. There's a book by Sadi about Allah's names, but not necessarily so much talking about the rules, but about the meanings. But the exemplary by Uthaymeen is also by Omar al-Ashqar. Then these books go into about how to name, as well as to what is a name, what is an attribute, what is information being given, a khabar, right, and so on and so forth. So these are beneficial for us to try to read and to develop into this topic, so that when we do speak about it, we speak with knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I have today. If there's any questions, we only have a few people online with us. If they wanted to ask a question or make a comment or correct something that we may have said, and they can do so, or we can go back. Other than that, this is what we have for today, and inshallah. As always, we ask everyone to like the videos, to share them, to subscribe to the channels. This helps YouTube and Facebook and other people push these videos into the feeds of others who may not be subscribed to us, so that they can find benefit as well. And
I think it's important to mention, Muawiyah, with this, especially with this kind of thing, you know, we're talking about the deen here, you know, sharing knowledge of the scholars. So if somebody is to like or to share this content, inshallah, they'll be rewarded for doing so, inshallah ta'ala, you know, and all of the people that then subsequently share. So, yeah, you know, we try to gather good deeds, you know. Maybe this is a very easy way for people to gather good deeds, just by clicking and sharing the content. Because I mean, what Muawiyah is reading here is from, you know, the permanent committee, the shuyukh. It's not, you know, it's not from us. So inshallah, this is beneficial knowledge, and we'll be rewarded, inshallah, for sharing it. Barakallahu feekum.
And it just reminds me of the the first video I made on TikTok and why I decided to finally take your advice to do it, even though I haven't done it in months since Ramadan, basically, since before Ramadan, basically. And that is, to crowd the internet. Sheikh Uthaymeen, he said, crowd the internet with dawah, until it just overtakes it, So every avenue that you have that is not completely, there's certain things that are completely forbidden. Like I kept seeing something pop up on my feed the other day. It was about a website. It's kind of like TikTok. It's a website or an app, I'm not sure. But it's something about all these people are making millions and millions of dollars off of it. And basically what it is you subscribe to those people who you like, and you can pay them instead of letting YouTube or Instagram or whoever make the money. If you have a lot of followers, they could come and just give you $2 or $3 a month, $1 a month, $10 a month, whatever they want. And then them people will provide content for them. I don't remember the name of it, but looking into it, it's full of nothing but fitna. I can't imagine a Muslim going on there trying to say, I'm going to spread dawah here, and Allah knows best, TikTok is already kind of borderline same idea, but there's been a lot of people who have broke through and made it successful into something for a place where there could be some short dawah given, and
one of the fitan though, Sheikh, which I noticed, I don't know if it's really on TikTok, but like on Twitter for sure, there's a lot of people just, this whole jarh wa ta'dil thing. And I sent you a beautiful explanation by Sheikh Falah. May Allah have mercy and be pleased with him, where he was talking about this, and he mentioned that he was giving a lesson in one of the masajid somewhere in, I can't even remember if it was in Kuwait or outside, and he said, this whole jarh wa ta'dil thing, one of the people was asking him and talking to him, we should be, fighting against we should be talking against these people. And he said, wait. Let me ask you a question. Jarh wa ta'dil, it's like, mashallah, you must be from the ulama, because this is an advanced, area of Islam. So let me ask you a question. Can you tell this sheikh, what are the basic principles of, what are the preconditions of the salah and the arkan of the salah? And he said the guy had absolutely no idea. He was like, and like, it's whatever the scholars say it is. He said, man, you don't know the basics of fiqh, that the people in Saudi Arabia, an 8-year-old kid will learn the basics, these fundamentals. He'll be able to tell you parrot fashion. You don't even know it, and you're trying to make jarh wa ta'dil. Come on, man. No. And this is what I see on Twitter, and this is what I see from, unfortunately, a lot of the new Muslims. They come on, and I remember when I was a new Muslim, I was full of excitement, and well, alhamdulillah, we didn't have TikTok then, otherwise I might have fallen into this myself. But people just talking about things they don't really understand, and then they get refuted, and then they try and refute back, and we find that people don't have enough knowledge to do these refutations, and then they, in some cases, a'udhu billah, they fall out of Islam because they get doubts and they don't have the ability to refute them. So it's very dangerous to talk without knowledge. That's why I stick to just talking about me, my story, and I try not to go out of my lane.
No. That's why one of the books that we just translated, and we're waiting for the rest of the money so that we can print it, the questions and answers related to the principles and important matters regarding the religion of Islam by Sheikh Omar al-Omar. And it's 150 questions related to Tawheed, related to Salah, related to Wudu and Ghusl and Salah, and Siyam and Zakat and Hajj, and then to Aqidah. And it's 150 questions. And they're very simple, easy questions. And in my introduction, I said, if a person can't answer these questions easily from their memory, then they have no business really talking about stuff beyond this. because these are the foundations and the important matters of our religion. If I ask you, what are the shurut of salah? What are the wajibat of salah? What are the arkan of salah? What are the sunan of salah? What's the difference between a shart, a wajib, a rukn, and a sunnah? What's the difference? What's the difference between how many types of kufr are there? How many types of shirk are there? How many types of nifaq are there? Give me some examples.
That's why I got this behind me.
No.
Just in case someone asks me, I'll go, wait a second, turn my camera off, look it up, and then I'll go, yes, it's...
No. So what are the fruits of salah? What are some of the merits of salah? What are some of the merits of belief in the angels? Okay, we believe in the angels. What does that belief in the angels, what is that supposed to instill in you? How is that supposed to change you? What does belief in al-qadr, belief in the last day, belief in the messengers, what does this tell us? What is that supposed to do? These are basic things. If you say you're a Muslim, that you believe in Islam, you believe in the Quran, you believe in the Sunnah, you should have these answers ready to answer.
Well,
and if you don't,
not just that. If you look at the biographies of the ulama, and even if you talk about the contemporary ulama, and let's ask what age did they memorize the Quran? Most of them memorized the Quran by the time they were 10 years old,
No.
So, and people making this kind of, qila wa qal, I'm sure, they didn't memorize more than juz'am.
Many of them can't even read salah properly.
The rulings come? The rulings come from the Quran and the Sunnah. So if we didn't memorize the Quran, we shouldn't have. There's no business talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, leave it to those who can talk about it. You can say so and so said it. So and so, Sheikh Fulan said this. Sheikh Rabi' said this. Sheikh Muhammad said this. Sheikh Fulan said this. Okay, tayyib. Then leave it at that. Because you're just blindly following the Sheikh. You don't have the ability to know if the Sheikh is right or wrong, but you trust the Sheikh. So you follow him in that. Tayyib. You want to relate that to me? Tayyib. But don't force it down my throat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, especially when you're not capable of leading the salah. Anyway, let's get off here before we backbite, inshallah. We'll come back next week, inshallah, with the remainder of the questions related to naming. There are just a few more. And then we'll get into, bi'idhnillah, the aqiqah. You said you had a question about aqiqah. What happens if you miss it, right? It's coming up, inshallah, in the next chapter.
Inshallah.
Not next week, then the week after that, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, we'll talk about that. You have any other closing remarks?
No, it's all good, man. I think I spoke too much. People are probably, waiting for us to finish, so I'll let them go.
Jazakumullah khairan. Inshallah, we'll see you, brothers and sisters, next week. As always, we'll put this video is already up, going to be on YouTube and Facebook Live. And then tomorrow, inshallah, we'll cut it up into individual questions and answers, and they'll be there so you can share that as well with your friends and family. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu